Now that we've customized our list view with hyperlinks, let's turn our focus to how we can pull in related information from lookup fields into our list view. Right now, if we look at the inspector column in our equipment maintenance history list view, it's empty. And that's because this column is a lookup field and it references the user object, meaning each record is linked to the user who submitted the inspection. However, since we haven't assigned an inspector to these records yet, there's nothing to display. So before we do anything else, let's assign an inspector to one of our records so we have data to work with. And to do that, we're going to click on the inspection date hyperlink to view the record, and then click edit in the top right and then update the inspector field to a user set up in your tenant. Now, if you go back to the list view, you'll see that the inspector column is no longer completely empty. But instead of displaying a useful name, we just see a UID, the unique identifier for the selected user. So in this lesson, I'm going to show you exactly how to address this by referencing data from the linked user, first displaying the UID. In Schedulo, lookup fields don't store actual data. Instead, they create a relationship to another object. Right now, our inspector column is showing the inspector's UID, but what would be more helpful is showing the inspector's name. Now, if we navigate back to the list view default column settings by going into the settings menu, objects and fields, then selecting equipment maintenance history, and finally clicking on the edit default columns button, we can open the inspector column template, which is currently set to inspector ID. This tells Schedulo to display the unique ID of the related user record, but what we actually want is their name. To address this, we'll update the column template to reference the name field from the user record. To do this, we simply update the column template to inspector.name. Let's break this down to see what's happening here. Inspector is the lookup field that connects equipment maintenance history to the user object. Name is the field we want to display from the user record. So by setting the column template to inspector.name, this tells Schedulo to retrieve the name field from the related user record instead of just showing its UID. This approach works because of something called dot notation, which allows us to reference fields from related objects by chaining field names together, where we have a dot in between each field. For example, if we wanted to show the inspector's email, we'd use inspector.email. You don't need to memorize these relationships. Schedulo helps you discover available fields when adding a new column. When selecting a field, just type inspector, and Schedulo will show you a list of available fields formatted as the lookup name, followed by a chevron, then the related field name. This makes it easy to select the right field without needing to know the exact object model ahead of time. Sometimes you need to go across multiple objects within the data model. For example, if you were working with the job allocations list view and wanted to display the region name of the related job, you'd need to reference both the job object and the region lookup on that job. To do that, we'd create a column for job.region.name. Or again, we could use the new column dropdown to navigate to the region name field. In this example, job references the job related to the allocation, and region references the region lookup field on the job. Name pulls in the region's name to display in the list view. This ability to reference nested relationships makes Schedulo list views incredibly powerful, but keep in mind, this is for lookup fields where there is a single related record, as opposed to a child object that may have multiple related records. And that's it. We've taken our inspector column from displaying an empty value to showing the inspector's name, making the data much more useful at a glance. I'll see you in the next lesson.